Hi everyone, it's Martinez Art Lab with you today, and I'm going to show you how to create a digital portrait in Google Draw. What you're seeing right now is an example of the final product, and when we go to print this, the background is translucent. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to head to my Google Drive, and when I'm in my Google Drive, I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to go to More, and head right to Google Drawings. When I click on that, it's going to open a new file. The very first thing I'm going to do is go up to the untitled drawing, double click on it, and type in the name of my file. So for today's purposes, I'll go ahead and put digital portrait example. I always put the name and have students put the name of the project, and then I have them do an underscore and their last name. So get in the habit of doing this right when you open a file, just to make sure you keep your files organized, you know where everything's at, and you don't lose anything, any hard work that you've done on accident. So I've started my file in Google Drawings. Now I'm going to go ahead and just click to the side, saving automatically for me. I'm going to base my drawing off of a picture. Students can start this project by taking a selfie on the computer using the webcam. I'm going to pull a picture that I already have. So if we were going to bring a picture in that we already, I'm sorry, let's back that up. If we're going to pull a picture in from the webcam, using the webcam, we'll go to Insert, Image, and go to Camera, and that's what's going to pull open or let you take a picture using the webcam. Because I'm pulling it off my computer, I'm going to insert image and upload from computer. I'll navigate to my picture, and this is the picture of my self-portrait that I will be using. So I'm just going to go ahead and center it. If I wanted to crop my picture, the cropping tool is up here. If I need to enlarge my picture, I'm always going to use one of these four corners, hold down and click, or if I needed to make it smaller, hold down and drag and click. I'm going to make my picture as large as I can get it. If my picture gets blurry, that's totally fine, because we're just kind of using our picture as a guide. So eventually this photograph is going to get deleted anyhow. Everything that's there that I don't want to be there is all going to get deleted. So I'm making it about where I want it. And let's go ahead and dive right in. So the tools that I need to know that are the most important, when my photograph is selected, I'm going to get some more tools that pop open. We've already went over the crop image tool, and we went over how to resize our photograph, but I need to know how to move my photograph. So this select arrow is one of the most important tools that we'll be using today, because you have to make sure that your arrow is selected to be able to select images and move them around. So we've got our selection tool under control. Now we need to know how to use our line tool. This little drop down arrow, when I click on it, will show you the different tools we can use. We are actually going to be using the curve tool. And I'm going to just get started drawing. I'm just going to do the circle around the cup here, because that's easiest and largest to see. So every time I move my mouse, I'm going to make a click. So I'm going to add the audio of my click right now, just so you can hear how many clicks I'll be making to make the circle on this cup. So click, 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 click. And I want to make sure I connect that at the end. So I had lots of clicks in there. Every time I make a click, it's going to let me make those nice curves I just got on the top of the mug here. So a couple things are happening. The inside of this, I made a solid shape. Every shape that we make needs to be solid. So my first click needs to be ended with my last click in order to make a solid shape. If I accidentally make a double click instead of one click, it's going to end my line. So watch what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go off to the side and I'll do click, 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 and it ended the shape that I was trying to make. So when I make a mistake, if it's selected, or if you need to double check that it's selected, go up to that select arrow and I can just click delete. Or if I make a mistake, and remember, I'm going to bounce back and forth between this select arrow and the curve tool. So I need to make sure that this curve tool's selected before I do anything. When I click, 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 double click. That double click ends my shape. Right now I accidentally started a new line, so I'm going to double click. And now I could press delete, or I could use this back arrow, which undoes whatever I did that I don't want done. Okay. Now I also don't want this shape anymore. So I need to click that select arrow, select it, and then I'm going to click delete on my computer, on my keyboard. So we know how to select shapes. I'm going to go ahead and show you. Personally, I think it's a lot easier to work with a larger image. So the magnifying glass right here will allow me to zoom into my image. So when I click this arrow, I'm going to click on 200%, and it makes my image huge. It's going to be a lot easier to draw the shapes on my image or to trace over them with a larger image. So I can scroll down, scroll up, scroll over, do as I need to. I'm going to go ahead and draw in one of my eyes. And again, I'm going to narrate that click because that's really how you're going to learn how to use this curve tool. To all my students out there, this project is very frustrating when you first get started. This is a new program for you. You're learning something brand new. It is frustrating. Don't give up on it, because once you get the hang of it, you'll be like, oh, all right, I got this. It's just, again, working through it, making sure that you're just getting used to these tools. Okay, so I'm going to click back on my curve tool, and I'm going to go right in, and I'm going to start tracing. Let's trace my eyebrow first. So click, 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 click. Every click that I make is, again, turning my eyebrow. They're turning the line so it turns into a curve. This is a lot easier to do when it's larger, and it's also a lot easier to do with more clicks, because the more clicks that you have, you'll be able to curve better. Okay, so you'll be able to create those curves better. So I'm making these clicks. You also see my shapes are blue. We're going to take care of that later. Okay, so I'm going to go in and stay in with keep making the shapes of my eyes. I want you to pay really close attention to the reason why I chose my eye is because you can see all these different values. And I want to make sure that I'm not neglecting to show those values. So Mrs. Martinez has a little bit of a shadow under her eye. Let's not talk about that too much. But you can see that I've got different values. I need to show that it's darker right here than it is right here, for example. So I'm actually going to trace those shapes in, because when I go in to add my skin tone and all the different colors that I'll be adding, I have those different shapes to make them slightly different skin tones. Okay, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to I'm going to start clicking. So first I'm going to make the click. Whoops, I must have unclicked something. So I need to make sure I've got my curve tool selected, and then I'll go back in and start clicking. I'm going to make this shape, the bottom part of my eyelid, all on its own. And then I'm just going to kind of curve back in. It starts to look maybe a little bit silly until it all comes together and we're starting to get the shapes in. So I've got like the bottom part of my eyelid, and now I'm going to go ahead and do this other shape in my eye on my eyelid. And I'll go ahead and do that. Again, these don't need to be perfect, but this photograph is a really good guide. So I'm getting these kind of strange shapes right here. If they overlap a little bit, that's fine. Okay, we're going to eventually take out these black lines. We're going to add in our color. I want my shapes to overlap because I don't want an empty space, and the overlapping we'll take care of later. Okay, so I've got this shape right here. It's kind of around my eye. There we go. And again, every time I move my mouse, I am making one click. If I double click, remember what that's going to do. That's going to do exactly what I just did. Okay, so this is not a solid shape. I'm going to go ahead and show you. If I click on this arrow, this is not a solid shape. Do you see how I don't have that black line at the top? This is just kind of a random shape that I got on there. I don't want that. If that happens, delete it and start over on the shape. I know it's frustrating, but that's how these portraits are going to turn out amazing. So I'm going to delete that shape and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to fast forward this video in just a few seconds so that way you can see what the final product is. And then how we add color. We'll slow it back down. So see how I'm overlapping these shapes, but they're all different shapes, okay? I also, at the end of this, can rearrange my shapes. So if I want certain shapes on top of other shapes, I can do that as well. So I'm just gonna keep going. I don't want them to completely overlap, but they can absolutely overlap. Okay, so I'm just gonna still go. We see that I'm kind of going right on top of my eyelid there. There's the start of my shape. There we go. There we go. And I accidentally made that line, so I'm gonna double click, press delete. So now I've got the form of my eyelid happening. Now I'm gonna go back to my tool, make sure that's selected, my curve tool, and I really like this shape. So what I'm going to do is show you a trick. I'm going to make that one shape and it's right on top. I've kind of lost all my shadows here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rearrange my shapes. Now to do that, I'm going to click my select arrow. I've got this top shape. I know that that's the shape I really want on the bottom. So I'm going to go to arrange, order, and send backward. So what I've just done is make my shape, put these other larger shapes on top. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this shape and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to send backward. Okay, so now I'm getting my shapes closer to where I want them. So I'll click on this shape and I'll click arrange and order, and I'm going to bring forward. Actually, let's bring that to the front. Arrange in order, bring to front. So there is a difference between bring to front and bring forward. And there is a difference between send backwards and send to back. Again, this is something that you're just going to, you just need to practice it. And the longer you practice, the better you'll get at it. So I've selected this shape right here, click arrange, order. I'm going to bring to front, okay, and that's about where I'm going to leave my eyes. Nobody's portrait will look the same. We will all have different shapes. I did the eye because there were so many different values. So if I look at the other eye on the right, I've got a value right there. I've got my eyebrow, a value right there, a value right there. So it really is up to you how you're going to show those values. I've got a value right here where I'm smiling. I've got a value where my nostril is, a value where my jawbone and my cheek is. So you definitely want to be showing all of those. Let me finish my eye real quick. I'll do my curve tool, and I'm going to, remember, if I just try and click over here, I've got a straight line. I need to show that curve. So I'm going to click, 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 click. Okay, and I guess we're gonna show the shadow under my eye. So we've got that first click, and I'll go ahead and make my second shape. Click, 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 click. And I'm slightly overlapping these. Okay, so I've got two values that I'm going to be showing underneath my eye. Okay, I've also got this little piece. We don't want to forget the corner of my eye there. So I'll eventually add that in. I'm going to start adding in my eyeball, my pupil. So I've got these clicks in here. Click. One thing that's happening is now I can't see the pupil in my eye to add. So I'll show you how to make start changing the colors on these, but it's nice to have the color on when you're working, because then you know you're not missing any spots. Like there's actually like an empty shape right there. So I want to make sure there's no empty spots on my image when I'm all done. So I'll go ahead and click my select tool. I've selected this shape. I'll go up to the fill color. So it's this bucket that looks like it's pouring paint. When I click on it, these are all the colors that I can choose. I know right now I don't want to add any color. So I'm going to click on transparent, and I have my eye shape now. So now I can go in back to my curve tool, and I can go back in and I can make this little glint in my eye. I accidentally did a line, so I'm going to delete, but I can do this little glint. It's really tiny, so I think I need to go bigger than 200%. So I'm going to click zoom, and now I've got a better working space. It is entirely up to you how big you want to make this when you work. My advice would be the bigger you can make your photograph, the easier it will be to draw. It's much easier to trace on top of something if you've got a really large image. And all you need to do is move your image up and down and to the side. I can change the color now, or I can leave it. If I want to change any of these colors, I can click my select tool. And remember, I go to the fill color, transparent. I can select any object, fill color, transparent. Fill color, transparent. Okay, so that's how I'm going to get my objects transparent. Now, I did all the shapes around my eye. I did the pupil, but it's really important that I'm going to go back in. Remember, we can't have any empty spaces. So I need to go back in and I need to actually do the entire eyeball. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing the outline. I'm probably going to have to go in because of the way I just drew this in. I'm definitely going to have to go in and redo the arrangement. So I might have to change the order. Okay. So I've got my eyeball in there. I've got the pupil in there. I've got everything drawn in. My eyes are really dark brown, so you can't really see a definitive change of color right there. So I'm going to leave that be. But for the most part, my eye is done. So now what I'm going to do is zoom back out. I'll go to 100% so you can kind of get a good glimpse of what we're looking at here. I'll take you back to our example, and we've got, I don't have as many values, but you can start to see those values in what we are drawing. So I will go back and I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to fast forward it now so that way you can, we can get to the end and I can start showing you how to add color. So sit back and watch while I finish. that look like I'm covering up all my hard work. I am actually not, because remember what I'm going to go back in and do is I'm going to go back in and add, I'm going to go back in and rearrange these shapes. So it is going to look as though the shapes that the large shapes that I'm kind of not being as careful with are going to go on top of or behind those smaller, more detailed shapes. So I'm kind of overlapping because, again, I want to make sure that I don't accidentally forget any spots. So I'm overlapping a little bit, just like that. If I go back and zoom back out, we can see it looks like I've covered up a bunch of stuff, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take my black arrow, my select arrow, and I'm going to left click and drag over my entire picture, because what I want to do is select everything. It's a little hard to do when it's too large, so I just minimized my picture. I'm going to left click and I'm going to drag and select everything. So it just selected all my shapes. Now I can go as a group and I can go to my fill color and I can make everything transparent. Everything, oops, I did not want to do that yet. So let's go back. I guess my fill color wasn't showing open. I want to group mine all together and make my group here all transparent at once. So let's go ahead and group that. For some reason, my fill color isn't showing as a group. So I guess I will just go in kind of individually there and be selecting some shapes and making them transparent. Maybe with a smaller grouping, it will let me do that. Let's find out. So as I'm kind of going in and making these transparent, because I want to be able to see a little bit more of the details, now we're beginning to see my original photograph more. And if I accidentally move something, remember, I'll just use my back undo arrow. Let's see if I can make it a little bit larger now that I've got these shapes that I'm able to do. There we go. So I've selected some more shapes, and for some reason it is not letting me select everything like that. So I might have to go back in and individually change these. When I do that, I will be adding more color. Let's see if I can try one other way here. So I will go back in, I will try and select everything. Now I will go to arrange and click group. Now let's see if it'll let me. It will not. I'm just going to undo that grouping that I just did. Make a couple more of these transparent. And there we go. Okay, so we've got enough transparent here that I can show you how to add color in just a second. I made two large shapes for my hair. The reason why I made those transparent right away is because you can see my hair isn't all one color. So I'm going to go in and just add some value in here just to make that texture shown. And I'll just make those shapes transparent right away. Just outlining some of those darker values, because again, we don't want flat, large shapes. We want to try and show the value within our self-portraits. So we'll just go in and just make some value real quick in our hair. These portraits turn out very cartoon-like. But it's like a sophisticated cartoon. We've got advanced cartooning skills that we're learning here. Okay, so my portrait isn't perfect, but my portrait is good enough for you to be able to see how I'm going to start adding color. I'm going to start with my hair because I've got these big, large shapes. So I'll go a little bit smaller so we can see this. Let's see. Let's do our fit so we can see. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my select arrow. My select arrow selects my shape. So this is the large shape of my hair. My fill color is what's going to fill our shape colors in. So I will click that. My hair is really, really dark brown. It's almost black. So I don't like any of the colors I see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the color that's kind of closest to what my hair might be. Obviously, my hair is not red though. So I've picked that color and I'm going to go down to custom. And in this custom box, it's going to give me some different options. I can change the hue, I can change the transparency, or I could just click right on here and it's going to change my color. Every time I click this, the color changes up here. I want more of a brownish color. So, but I also don't want red. So I'm going to click this color. This looks closer. Click OK. And that's the color that I've changed it to. I can do this for any color. So if you look here, there are no skin tone colors here. No skin tones for anybody. So we're going to have to make our own skin tone colors as well. When we go to do that, I know it sounds silly because there's basically nothing close to a skin tone, but you're going to find the very closest one you can find to be able to make a custom color and get that color customized. Now, I also know I don't want my hair to be this brown either. I could make it that brown, but I'm going to go ahead and now that I've got it closer and I've got a brown color, now I can click custom on that color and I can kind of change it to a darker kind of black brown. And you know, it's definitely cartoon-like, but it's a lot closer than that original red was. So now I'm going to start clicking these colors, my other shapes. I'm actually going to start with my custom color, and I'm going to, again, make another custom color. So I'm going to make a custom color based on the custom color. So I'll keep going until I get what I want. I'm just going to do just a light shade. I'm not going to make it perfect because I want you to be able to see the different ways that I can customize these colors. All the custom colors that I've made are now down here, so I can go back to those custom colors. You see, I'm just bouncing back and forth between my selection tool and my fill tool. I'm going to make all these colors a little bit mixed up and a little crazy so that you can see the differences between the values that I'm making it with my custom colors and the colors that are there. Okay, I'm gonna go back and we'll match it up a little. How's that? Okay. And again, I just want to remind you, anytime you're learning a new computer program, it is very frustrating. So this is going to be frustrating as you're starting to learn this, but again, the more you do this and the more you work with this, the easier it will become. So here's my hair. Again, not perfect, but it's close. We can look and we can see that this is hair. You're going to be spending a lot more time on this so that your end result is going to look something like this. We've got the good shadows and values in his face and in his hair. His hair could be a little bit better, right? And then we've got the values on his hoodie. Check out his ear. Look at those values. Looking good. All right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to continue adding color. I'm going to fast forward the video while I do that. Again, remember, you're bouncing back and forth between your selection tool and your fill color. Let me click on this very large shape in the background that kind of overlaps. I'm just going to put yellow here so you can see how much it overlaps, because what I'm eventually going to have to do is arrange that, change the size. Okay. Right now I've still got my picture here, my photograph, the original one, because I want to kind of match up those colors as best as I can. So I'm going to take this big shape that overlaps, and I'm going to click my my fill box, And probably the closest to my skin tone is this, but again, not my skin tone. So I'm going to click the closest, and then I'm going to make a custom color to match it up. We will all be making custom colors because there's no way that these are skin tones, right? That's still really, really yellow for me. So maybe I should start with kind of a peachier tone and go back to custom, and go back to, I have a pretty pale skin tone. So, I think for now, this is what I'm going to go with. But I could play around with that custom colors more and just make a better matching skin tone. But for now and for our example, this is going to be good. Now, whenever I need to find that peachy color, it is right here. I'm going to make my larger shapes that peach color. And now that I've got those larger shapes, that peach color, I'm going to click on each one, and I'm going to click order and send backward. Okay. And when I send it backward, you see that it's bringing those smaller shapes right on top. Okay. Send backward. Okay. So now this shape is overlapping too, but it needs to be a darker skin tone. I don't want it to be the same. So I made it a different shape for a reason. So I'll click on that shape, and I'll click on the skin tone that matches, and then go back to custom. This is where all your work's going to be. All your work is going to be mixing colors and making these colors to match your skin tone. Okay. I want it to be a little bit darker. So I'll click OK, and it's just slightly darker. You see that slight difference? That's what's going to make the difference between a great portrait and an okay portrait. We really want those skin tones to match up. I might go around and I might make a couple spots that value, okay? But then I'm going to go in, and this spot is a lot darker. So I'm going to click on that. I'll go to the darkest skin tone I've made, and then I'll make another custom color. And make sure that is a darker skin tone, okay? Because I'm showing that value, okay? Now I'm actually going to speed the video up as I add these in, and I'll slow it down as we get closer and kind of go over everything. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go in, and I'm going to delete my photograph now because my photograph is actually causing a little bit more confusion because I can't figure out and see where to move my shapes. So I've selected my foreground in the background, and I'm going to click delete. And now I've got this. So when I've got a shape like this, I'm going to go to arrange and order and send to back. Now that it's in the back, I can begin to see some of my other values. So these larger shapes, I'm going to go to arrange and send to back. So now I'm starting to see my face a lot clearer. Remember, there's a difference between send to back and send backward. So now I've got these shapes that are much easier to see. I'm going to click send backward. Again, there's a difference between send backward and send to back. Those are now my nostrils that I can see. So I am back, and it's much easier to be able to see the shapes I need to change colors on. I'm going to make that a very darker shade for my skin tone there. So now I'm starting to do this. Now I'm starting to be able to see my face take form and start to be able to see my shapes. Remember, if I've got these individual shapes, the way to make my portrait as good as it can be, I need to be seeing these different values. I need to be seeing these different custom colors that I've created for my, I need to be creating these custom colors that I created for my hair color and for my skin tone and all of that. Okay. This is a very basic way to get started on making your portrait. So my end result will look something like this. Let's go ahead and put maybe some, I don't know what's in that coffee cup. I guess some black coffee we'll put in there. And let me X out of this because this does not need to be there. I'll select my coffee mug, and I actually didn't spend too much time showing the value in my coffee mug. You could definitely see the difference because it looks very flat. Whereas if you're looking at my face, you can see the difference and see that there's a lot of value there versus this flat cup. We can see the value in the shapes on my face that I've drawn. All right, anywhere I see blue, I need to make sure that I am adding that color in there. Oops, we did not want that to happen. I can move around shapes as I need to. If I make a mistake, I can just click my back arrow. I want to show you one last thing before we close up this tutorial. I want to see you spending a lot more time on this. You can see I forgot the pupil in my eye. I forgot a couple details. I forgot my hand. The coffee mug's just kind of floating in the air. So there's definitely some details I need to change up. I forgot to change some of these shapes that are blue still. So let me change the last little bits of these shapes. But you get the gist of this project and how you're going to create your digital portrait. Very quickly, I'll review your undo button. Any mistakes you make, you can undo them. The select tool, that's going to make sure whatever you want to be working on, you are selecting it with that black arrow. The curve tool, the way that you get there is clicking this drop down arrow and the curve tool. Every click that you make will turn your mouse and the line that you're making. I click delete on my keyboard to get rid of that. Every time you select a shape, you're going to get the fill color bucket to pull open. That is how you will create your colors. All of us will be creating custom color tones. I want to see the different values in your face, and I want to see correct skin tone as close as we can get it. Okay. I did not, again, I missed some of the detail, and we can all see where there should be more detail. Now, here's the test of my portrait. I'm going to use my black arrow. I'm going to left click, holding it down and drag to select everything in my portrait. And the test of my portrait, the test of whether I've used my custom colors right, is now I'm going to click on the, it looks like a little pencil where it says border color. I will click on that. This is the very last step when everything else is done. And I would click transparent. And when I did that, it took away all my black outlines. This is what's going to tell you if you've done your project right, because now I can see the definition in my face. Now, I can also see where I probably should have had another shape here. I needed to change that color and that color, so I can see all that now. Again, we're going to wind up with something like this when we are all done. Have fun making this project. Don't get too frustrated. It's brand new. We'll get used to it, and your end result is going to be awesome.